starts quietly. Nobody notices at first. She's 16 years old, staring at her phone screen waiting for a reply that never comes. Or perhaps she's 25, 32, 40. Age doesn't matter. The pattern is the same. The less he gives, the more she chases. The colder he becomes, the more she convinces herself she needs to prove her worth. And without words, something ancient activates in her mind. If I love hard enough, he'll see me. If I'm good enough, he'll stay. But he doesn't stay. And she doesn't realize the problem was never about being good enough. It was about having learned, long ago, that love is something to be earned, not something she deserves to receive. This is the invisible pain of women who love emotionally unavailable men. And today we're diving deep into the psychology of this pattern. Because the effects don't disappear when the relationship ends. They shape her. They follow her into the next relationship, into her self-esteem, into the way she sees her own worth. And without understanding what's happening, she'll spend her entire life repeating the same cycle she once promised herself she'd never repeat again. Let's begin with what's really happening psychologically. When a woman falls for someone who ignores her, who's inconsistent, who gives breadcrumbs of affection, her brain doesn't interpret this as rejection. It interprets it as a challenge, as something that needs to be solved. And this has a neurological basis. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. She doesn't know when the reward will come, so she stays trapped in the cycle trying. One day he responds warmly. The next he ignores her. One day he says she's special. The following week, he acts like she doesn't exist. And her brain releases dopamine every time she receives that small crumb of attention. Not because the love is good, but because unpredictability is chemical. She becomes addicted not to him, but to the hope that this time will be different. And while she waits, something terrible happens. She disappears. Not physically, but emotionally. She stops having needs, stops asking for what she deserves. She molds herself, adapts herself, diminishes herself. She becomes the woman who doesn't complain, who understands, who waits, who forgives. And the world around her might even praise her for it. You're so understanding. You're so patient. You're so mature. But nobody ever stops to ask, at what cost? Now the question arises, why would an intelligent, successful, incredible woman choose to love someone who treats her badly? Because the choice is never conscious. It's biological, it's psychological, and almost always it starts in childhood. If she grew up with a father who was emotionally absent, unpredictable, or cold, her brain learned early that love is something to be chased, that affection is conditional, that her presence isn't enough. She needs to do something to be loved. And when she meets a man who replicates that pattern, distant, inconsistent, emotionally inaccessible, something inside her recognizes this as familiar, not as dangerous, as home. Her unconscious whispers, if I can make this man love me, I'll finally prove I'm worthy. But the brutal truth is this. She's not trying to win him over. She's trying to heal her father wound. And until she realizes this, she'll keep choosing men who make her feel exactly like that child felt. Invisible, insufficient, always trying to prove her worth. As she grows older, the symptoms become more complex. She may become hypervigilant in relationships, analyzing every message, trying to decipher the tone, the punctuation, the response time. She transforms into an emotional detective, always searching for signs of rejection or validation. She may develop abandonment anxiety. She stays glued to her phone. She panics when he disappears. She makes up excuses for his behavior because accepting the truth that he's simply not that interested would be too devastating. She may start confusing intensity with intimacy. She thinks that because it hurts so much, because she feels so much, it must be true love. But true love doesn't leave someone in a constant state of anxiety. True love doesn't make someone question their worth every single day. And worst of all, she may not even realize she's stuck in emotional survival mode. Because when dysfunction is normalized early, the nervous system accepts chaos as baseline. Peaceful relationships seem boring. Kind men seem dull. Stable love seems suspicious, and she confuses anxiety with passion. This is the psychology of a woman who loves men who ignore her. It's not just sadness. It's complex trauma that reshapes how she sees relationships, and more importantly, how she sees herself. So what happens to this woman when she continues in this pattern? She becomes the adult who never feels enough, even when she achieves everything. She becomes the partner who gives everything and receives crumbs. She becomes the type of person who apologizes for having feelings, who minimizes her needs, who confuses being detached with being strong. She inherits a life where she's always proving herself, always waiting for someone to finally see her and say, "You're enough. You always were." But here's the hard truth. Nobody will come to save her from this emotional prison. She's the one who needs to go back and rescue the girl who learned that love is pain. She's the one who needs to say what nobody said. She deserved to be chosen without having to beg. She deserved to be loved without having to make herself small. She doesn't have to earn affection. It should be given freely, or it's worth nothing. This is the beginning of healing work. Not pretending everything's fine, not jumping into another relationship hoping it'll be different, but looking inward and recognizing the pattern. Let's examine how this pattern shows up in adult life in subtle, tragic, and often invisible ways. She might be incredible in every area of life, work, friendships, family, but when it comes to romantic love, she chooses men who never fully choose her. She might be praised for her independence when, deep down, she's just afraid to ask for help because she's been rejected so many times. She might be in relationships where she overfunctions, always explaining, always trying to fix, always giving chances, and she wonders why she feels so exhausted and resentful. She might struggle with boundaries because ending things, even when she should, still feels like personal failure. These aren't personality traits. They're survival strategies, learned, conditioned, and the encouraging news is they can be unlearned. One of the most powerful things she can do is ask her inner child, "What did I need back then that I never received?" She might hear answers like, "I needed my father to show me I was worthy of love without having to do anything. I needed to know my presence was enough. I needed to be seen not just when I was convenient." And slowly, very slowly, she begins giving these things to herself. Not to change the past, but to stop reliving it. This is how she stops seeking validation from emotionally unavailable men. This is how she stops confusing anxiety with love. This is how she stops running from the woman she was and becomes the woman she deserves to be. Healing requires that she face it. Everything. The pain, the shame, the anger, the unmet need. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who she was before the world taught her that she needed to deserve love. So if there's a woman listening who loves men who ignore her, understand this. Her heart isn't the problem. The problem was that she never learned that love shouldn't hurt like this. But now she knows. And now she has a choice. She can choose men who choose her back. She can choose peace instead of chaotic passion. She can choose to stop chasing and start receiving. And no, it won't happen overnight. There will be days when she'll want to return to the old pattern. It's comfortable. It's familiar. But remember, familiar doesn't mean healthy. She never had the love she deserved, but she still has a future. And this time she can choose differently. Not out of fear, not out of desperation, but out of self-love. She's not hard to love. She was just loving the wrong people. And now, finally, she can start loving the right person, herself.